it's been a whole year now, and I finally have another excuse to do another religious hoedown. By now you all probably have some idea how this works, but for noobs and the forgetful, here's a quick refresher. I pick 4 religious video games and pit them against each other to decide which is the best. The games don't have to specifically fit a criteria, as pickings are slim enough, but this series covers games which are typically made about or for that religion, which are heavily based on that religion in its themes, or it's made in a country that is predominantly that religion, and this reflects in the product. This series is a fun little look into each religion's contribution to the world of video games, and seeing which effort bore the most fruit. The games and religions will be Muslim 3D for Islam, Kings of Israel for Judaism, the Bible game on Game Boy for Christianity, and Cosmology of Kyoto for Buddhism. You know, I've actually found an amazing loophole in this format, where technically all Old Testament video games are Jewish and Christian games at the same time. Huzzah! I decided that Kings of Israel fits Judaism more than Christianity, as it's a game about saving a country of Jews from a king of Jews, using the power of the Jewish prophets and out-rabbiing everyone in the process. Kings of Israel is a board game video game somewhat like Armello or 100% Orange Juice or something of that vein. The rules of the game are long and over-explained, but the gist of it is that you need to build 7 idols whilst playing whack-a-mole with the evil sing clouds and evil idols. You get 2 hero characters to play as, given to you at random, and each one has a special ability that you can take advantage of to get ahead in the game. There's a round for each King of Israel there was, and depending on whether the king was a good king or a bad king, it affects the round. Also, rounds are somewhat hobbled if the king was short-lived, which I feel is a bit of a cop-out, but okay. This would affect more of the game, but like 3 of the kings are good, and by the halfway point of a game, like after so many rounds, you're never going to have a good king ever again, so it really doesn't matter. Although, admittedly, even the term good is debatable. David's a good king, apparently. Yeah, tell that to Uriah. At least we have a round where we're well protected by the Israeli boys. The game is explained decently, but it feels like a bombardment of information that results in confusion. I ended up more or less teaching myself how to play the game, doing my best to remember what I could from the tutorial, and re-explaining it to myself in a way that just wasn't information overload. Really, the biggest challenge is keeping hold of your resources without losing them to community cards or overstocking and losing something important. You only have so many slots, and you need at least 1 of 3 items to build an idol, basically 1 of each of 3. After playing Armello, Hand of Fate, and the Fallout board game, I was kind of looking forward to this as a brave shuffle into the world of video game board games, but sadly I found this one was comparatively lacking. I get that it's a different genre to some of them, but I think it's quite comparable to Armello. Armello feels like it's a lot more special in every aspect, given that the heroes are well fleshed out characters and people feel somewhat invested in the game's world and its characters and its story and whatever else. There's also more investment as to what you're doing in the game because you have to amass the right items in order to get the right victory conditions. There are 4 methods of victory in Armello. Sometimes you work your way through the game with an ultimate plan, and others you just sort of take whatever victory you can manage. In this, there's 1 method of victory, and there's only 1 way to go about it, which isn't bad within itself. However, it does make every round of this seem the same. I played this 3 or 4 times, won once and lost the others. There's also no multiplayer in this, which is weird for a board game. Single-player board games are a thing, but single-player is usually an afterthought. Maybe having another player might make this a bit more enjoyable, but there's no online play. So, if you did have another player controlling the other character, you'd have to do some complicated workaround, like take some random homeless person hostage, or arrange some Discord party where you do a screen share and people have control of your screen. The game looks, sounds, and plays out nice. I didn't run into any performance issues or anything of that nature. It all looks a bit basic, but I get the impression that that's due to budget rather than a lack of caring. Everything they did well. The music is a nice touch, its soundtrack is pretty good. The drawings of the characters are pretty well done, and the overall aesthetic of the game is consistent, and honestly, it's pretty nicely made as a product. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't as disappointed with how much I got out of this game. It's fine for the price and everything, but ideally a board game video game should keep you coming back. Like, I've played hundreds of hours of Elder Scrolls Legends because it's just something I do when I want to keep my brain semi-active. I have a few friends who are also addicted to Armello, and I was addicted to that Fallout board game for ages. This, I think you'd have a hard time playing it more times than I did, as it just gets very repetitive. It's not bad by any means, but I feel like I'm left wanting a lot more. Well, time to move on, I guess. You know, there is a second Israeli Boys game that I wanted to play in this, but it's so long I still haven't finished it, and I didn't want to tank myself before I even started on this project, more or less having to power through it. I mean, it could be hours and hours long for all I know. So I'll be leaving that for a future video, be it Religious Hoedown or maybe even its own venture. I guess we'll see. Join me next time for Christianity's contribution to this Hoedown.
Welche Kirche, Kirche.